The camera doesn't open on drama. It opens on quiet exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion no one applauds. The kind that doesn't look heroic from the outside but settles deep into the bones. The kind that wakes you up before the alarm and keeps you lying awake long after ambition should have rested. The world is still dark. The air is cold, and a man stands alone in a field before sunrise. His boots already muddy, his hands already sore, utterly convinced that suffering itself is proof of virtue. He believes that if he just gives more of himself, more hours, more sweat, more sacrifice, life will eventually notice. Eventually reward him. What he doesn't realize yet is that effort, when it's misdirected, doesn't build anything, it just burns. His name is Thomas. He's 32 years old, and he works harder than anyone he knows. Harder than his neighbors, harder than his friends, harder than the version of himself he used to be. He wakes while the sky is still black, long before the world asks anything of him, and he goes to work not because he must, but because stopping feels like failure. The farm he works is modest, inherited, and heavy with history. Every fence post, every row of soil, carries the echo of his father's voice telling him that real success is earned through pain, not through thought. Thomas absorbed that belief so deeply he never questioned it. To him, rest wasn't a right. It was a weakness. From dawn until the sun disappears, Thomas moves. He plants by hand. He waters by hand. He weeds by hand. His back aches constantly. His palms split and bleed. And at night he collapses into bed with the kind of exhaustion that steals even the ability to dream. His wife watches this routine unfold. Day after day, she notices how his eyes have dulled, how conversations have shortened, how life has narrowed down to nothing but labor. At first, she speaks gently, then more urgently. There has to be another way, she says. But Thomas just shakes his head. Hard work never lies. Hard work never fails. At least, that's what he tells himself. But seasons pass, and the results never arrive. Despite working longer hours than anyone around him, Thomas barely breaks even. Every harvest feels like survival, not progress. Debt whispers louder every single year. The cruelest part isn't the physical pain, it's the confusion. Because Thomas did everything right according to the rules he was taught. He sacrificed comfort, health, time, and connection. And still, success stays just out of reach, like a horizon that moves farther away the faster he walks toward it. Just beyond his land lives another farmer. Same age, same soil, same weather. This man works fewer hours, goes home before the sun sets, reads in the evenings, and laughs with his family. And yet, his fields are fuller, healthier, more abundant. This contradiction eats at Thomas, in the quiet moments he never allows himself to have. How can someone give less and receive more? The question terrifies him, because if sheer effort isn't the answer, then everything he believes in collapses. The breaking point doesn't arrive with a dramatic storm. It arrives disguised as determination. A drought settles over the valley. Slow and unforgiving. While others adjust their strategies, Thomas doubles down. He wakes even earlier. He carries water farther. He pushes through the pain with the stubborn pride of someone who believes endurance is his identity. His body protests louder each day, but he silences it with the same mantra. Work harder. Do more. Don't stop. Until one morning, his legs fail him. The bucket slips from his hands. Water spills into the dry dust. Thomas drops to his knees, gasping, his heart racing, his vision narrowing. The field he tried so desperately to save spins around him as his body finally demands what his mind refused to give. A stop. The doctor's words are calm, almost gentle, and final. If you continue like this, you won't reach the next harvest. Not because of the land, because your body will quit before it can. That night, lying awake, connected to machines instead of soil, Thomas feels something unfamiliar. Doubt, not doubt about his circumstances, but doubt about his entire philosophy. For the first time in his life, he wonders if relentless effort without direction isn't strength at all. Maybe it's just blindness. His wife sits beside him and says something so simple it cracks everything open. Maybe hard work isn't the problem, she says. Maybe it's the only tool you've ever used. Days later, humbled in a way exhaustion never managed to achieve, Thomas does something his pride once forbade. He walks across the field and knocks on his neighbor's door. They sit together, overlooking the thriving land. Thomas looks at the crop stenser, greener, more alive, and finally asks the question he's avoided for years. Not, how do you work harder, but how do you work differently? The answer doesn't come as advice. It comes as a simple demonstration. His neighbor holds out two tools. One is a dull, chipped axe. The other is a sharp, well-maintained one. He says the dull one demands endless force and returns very little. The sharp one, maintained and respected, multiplies every single swing. The lesson isn't about farming. It's about leverage, about understanding that progress isn't measured by effort alone, but by alignment, by systems, by thinking before acting, by resting not as a sign of weakness, but as a crucial part of preparation. In that moment, Thomas realizes something devastating and freeing at the same time. He has been confusing motion with progress, activity with achievement, pain with purpose. Change doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, strategically. Thomas begins to work less and think more. He starts to replace brute force with systems that remove friction instead of glorifying the struggle. He narrows his focus instead of scattering his energy across a dozen different tasks. He rests, not because he feels lazy, but because he finally understands that clarity is impossible when you're exhausted. Slowly, the results begin to compound. The land responds. His body recovers. His mind sharpens. Work no longer feels like punishment. It feels like creation. Months later, the harvest tells a different story. Not one of suffering, but of intention. Fewer hours are producing greater outcomes. Less effort is yielding more progress. Thomas doesn't feel like a hero. He feels awake. And this is where the story turns toward you. Because this isn't just a story about farming. It's about anyone who believes that burnout is the price of success. Anyone who equates exhaustion with their worth. Anyone who secretly wonders why working harder and harder hasn't delivered the life they were promised. The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. Effort is essential, but strategy decides the direction. Hard work builds the road, but smart work chooses where that road leads. You are not failing because you're lazy. You may be failing because you're tired, unfocused, and using dull tools on a problem that requires precision. You are not meant to run until you break. You are meant to build leverage, find clarity, and create momentum. Stop swinging blindly. Pause. Sharpen the blade. Rethink the system you're using, because the future doesn't belong to those who suffer the most. It belongs to those who learn when to push and, more importantly, when to think. And that choice begins right now. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that helps you work smarter, not just harder. See you in the next one.